Well, welcome to episode number 1 of Brian Brings a Beer. We want to be able to bring two things together that oftentimes don't come together. Spirituality, faith, Jesus, and normal fun life. Sometimes these two things don't operate. We got the kind of high transcendent interesting conversation over here, like how many angels can fit in the head of a pin, and then we got everything you really want to talk about over here. And oftentimes there's no jibing of these two things, and I actually believe the power and the fun and the meaning in life takes place when these two things come together. So I'm gonna bring a beer. I'm gonna just sit down and have some good conversations. And our first one here is going to be with Matthew Castleman. Why don't you tell us who you are?
Yeah.
Before you even tell us who you are, I'm supposed to bring a beer.
Ooh.
So let's just see what beer we bring here.
I brought you a beer.
No,
I
you're
thought
not.
maybe
No,
you
this
could.
is not Brian brings a chick drink. No, that's not that. It's we're gonna have different beers every time, and I'm actually surprised. So this is Newcastle. And crazy thing, the people who are shooting this show right now, they actually thought it was going to be a beer. Brian was going to bring a beer, like we were going to split a beer. Yeah, Brian is a weenie boy, would be called. Oh, Pastor can't actually drink a whole beer. Especially you're coming from the west side. You should be really offended by that, shouldn't you? Tell us who you are.
I'm complimented by this because it has Castle in the name, and my name has Castle in the name. I'm Matt. See, it was meant to be.
Duh, I'm
Cheers.
going like, all
Good
right.
start.
I'm thinking this is also my wife's favorite beer, but okay.
Perfect. Well, it's imported from England. I'm not imported from England. My name is Matt. I'm imported from the west side, best side of Cincinnati. I've been on staff at Crossroads now for about 5 years. And here in the last year, I got to lead our west side campus in the community around it. So it's good to be back home. And yeah, I'm an Oak Hills alumni. Go Highlanders. And this is not my favorite beer, but this is a good beer nonetheless.
But you have to drink it. I gave it to you, and you must
All
drink
right,
it.
all right.
So take us back to your first dipping the toe in the waters of faith at Crossroads.
Yeah. A friend had invited us back in 2008 to come see the big Christmas show, Awaited, at the Oakley location. And I had been going to church growing up occasionally. We had West Side, so Catholic background, and had no interest in church at all, none. But a friend invited us to this big Christmas show. Okay, I have interest in Christmas. I'll go support my friend. He was in it, and so we went, and we saw Awaited. I was impressed. The caliber of the execution was amazing, and so it caught my attention, and we ended up coming back a few months later. If church was anything like this big Christmas show was, which was like Broadway.
What year was that?
2008.
So that was the first year. That was the first year after we had a death, or was that the year? That was the first year after death.
That was the year of. Yeah. So we were at that show.
You've never been in Crossroads before.
Yeah.
You're sitting in the most tragic event in the history of Crossroads. Tell me like where you were sitting. Tell people what happened.
Yeah. Up until that moment, when the accident happened, it was amazing. I mean, it was Broadway, Circus, all the things, plus Christmas, all shoved into one. And so we're loving it. And then, your brain doesn't exactly know what to do with it when it sees something of that caliber of trauma. And so we're sitting there, and at the end of the song, We Three Kings, girl falls and later dies. And so we saw her fall, and we thought it was honestly part of the show. Like, oh, this is some big stunt that they do or something. And we quickly realized, oh no, this isn't part of the show. This is a huge disaster. So everyone's freaking out. You came up on the stage as people kind of rushed to her and said, hey, don't leave the parking lot because that'll create a traffic jam. Stay in your seats while the ambulance can come in, and let's just pray. And so you had prayed, and it was the first prayer I ever heard outside of a traditional Catholic, rote prayer. And in that moment, I can remember turning to my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, and saying like, oh, they really believe this stuff. Just because it wasn't pre-scripted. You didn't have all the answers. You were sort of a little mad and upset. But for me, now I can look back at that and go, oh, cool. God used this horrible moment of tragedy to reveal the authenticity of these people who are following God to the best of their ability. So flash forward a few months later and sort of let the dust settle. I said, see, this is why I don't go to church. This is why I don't go to church.
Because people die?
Yeah, well, it just is. How could God let something like this happen?
Oh, okay.
How could, yeah, well, yeah. So we sort of reconciled that a bit and came back a few months later to church service, and same level of excellence, awesome message, same level of authenticity. I mean, we were hook, line, and sinker. 2009 is when we started coming regularly, and then our lives were transformed. So literally, 10 years ago, didn't know God, opposite end of the spectrum, saw a girl fall to her death, saw the authenticity of people following her to respond and cry out, and started coming back, and that's set the trajectory of our faith ever since. So, and that,
wow,
the level of authenticity, which brings me to my first question for you, is we're, from the west side, we like to have a good time. We like to throw some cornhole.
Cornhole.
By the way.
Cornhole.
That went in.
That went in. Oh my gosh.
Come on, west side.
You're actually from the west side.
Yep. I don't like to
But
brag.
you didn't even throw it the right way. You did it overhand.
I don't even need
How
to.
did that? You're a thespian.
need to.
How do you possibly throw
People
something
don't know that yet.
overhand? How do you possibly throw something hand and it goes in?
Is that sports?
Man. All right. Wow.
Game on?
We're just have to take your word for it. Yeah.
That did not.
That did not go in.
You can pretend. You can pretend.
Jeez, all
So
right.
yeah, we're from West Side. We like to have a good time. We like to throw a few bags. We like to have a beer or two. But when you're representing the church, how do you reconcile that with having a beer? I'm sure a lot of people are watching this right now going, I thought you were a pastor. I thought you worked at a church.
You mean people have a hard time drinking a beer?
Ooh.
Oh yeah, I'm really giving people a hard time. Has anyone ever seen a pastor gurgle with beer? I just like to poke my finger at the bear every once in a while.
So
I'm frustrated that there's a bunch of beliefs that are held by people of faith that I don't think are faithful beliefs at all. I'm bothered that there's sort of hidden agendas or rules of how you're supposed to act if you're a follower of Jesus that I respect your opinion if you want to act that way, but I take my cues from Jesus himself. I don't take my cues from Christian culture. I take my cues from Jesus himself. Jesus' very first miracle was turning water into wine. I've heard people say, well, it wasn't real wine. It wasn't wine. It was like this thick grape juice kind of thing. Please. People go in the midst of that miracle, they say, my gosh, the best wine normally happens at the beginning of the wedding, not at the end, because at the end people are feeling a little tipsy and they can't taste the good wine from the bad wine. You brought the greatest wine because Jesus created a miracle for the party to go on. That in and of itself right there shows that if alcohol is inherently wrong in all situations, Jesus would not have turned water into wine. Now, perhaps for a lot of people, alcohol isn't a good thing. You have a history of alcohol abuse. It's inside of your family. You personally can't stop. Yes, and yes. But to just categorically say someone who is in ministry or someone who loves Christ can't have a beer, I think it's that kind of belief, that kind of communication that caused people to run away from Jesus. Here's a crazy thing. Jesus was regularly accused of being a friend of tax collectors and sinners. That's the people who are the partiers. Let me tell you something. You're not a friend of the partiers unless you're okay being at a party. And I'm sorry, Jesus wasn't going there, I don't believe in drinking apple juice. He was accused of being a glutton and a drunkard. Why was he accused of that? Think about this. The reason he was accused of that is because he was seen having fine foods and having alcohol. It's the only thing that makes sense. So I totally respect the conviction that alcohol isn't right for some people and isn't right for you. I do not respect the conviction that says you can't love Jesus and have a few beers at the same time, or it's something that a pastor shouldn't do.
Yeah.
I take my cues from the Bible and from church history, by the way, and many of the greats in church history ran breweries. Guinness, from Guinness Beer.
Yeah.
That guy was a spiritual great. Honestly, the only people I'm causing to stumble are people who like to judge. I'm giving you a reason to judge me.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I'll give you a reason to judge me, and you work out with God, and I'm fine with it.
We'll find them in the comments section.
Yeah, yes, that's right.
So you've been doing this for Crossroads.
21 years, the drinking age. Yes, the drinking
legal
age.
drinking.
21 years.
So 21 years. West Side has been around for over 3 years now.
Crossroads West Side.
Crossroads
The West Side's been around for a long time.
West Side has been around as long as cornhole's been around, and drinking, as a matter of fact. But we've been around for a few years as a part of the Crossroads community, and already I can hear rumblings of, well, how do we make church not feel like an obligation?
I ping pong back and forth on that question over the years, and I think I'll tell you where I am right now. I think we need more obligations in our society. I think our society is afraid of obligations. I think our society thinks that freedom is all about I should do whatever the heck I want to do, no matter what. No one should tell me what to do. Feeling like I should go to a place every week where I get a counter narrative to culture. You should have that, because the narrative culture is saying it's all about you and your beliefs and your desires and whatever you want. And I'm sorry, that's not truth. And you should have an obligation to pull yourself out of popular culture and drop yourself into a transcendent experience where you can get a counter narrative message. The question is, when I get there, is it winsome? And I think that's where we have a problem. We have a lot of churches that aren't really interested in making things winsome.
Yeah.
And we've got to do that. We can't talk about don't fight a war you can't win. If you want to try to fight the war of you should go to church no matter how bad it sucks just because you should go, that's a war you can't win. We've got to be able to have them come into an environment and hear about Jesus in a language which they understand, and that includes stimulating things that are happening visually and audibly.
You mentioned the word winsome, which is a winsome word, by the way. Winsome. How, in order for the church to stay sharp, exciting, drawing our focus, how do you stay sharp and focused? How do you stay, what excites you?
Man, good question. Did you not come prepared to interview me or something? It's supposed to be we were just having a couple beers.
It's the Newcastle.
Man, very, oh, wow. There's a lot there. No one wants to follow the God you follow if they don't want the life you have. So we can talk all we want about how much I love Jesus, the disciplines I have, but if those disciplines aren't making our life more winsome, in other words, someone's looking at my life, your life seems more peaceful, it seems more joyful, it seems more happy, it seems exciting, it seems adventuresome. I mean, if we don't have that happen, then no one's going to follow the God that we follow, right? So it's for that, among many reasons, why I want to stay tuned of how am I taking care of myself. It's important to take care of myself emotionally. Ooh, whew, beer's getting down there.
Brown ale kicking in.
Oh, brown ale there, right. So I think I have to take care of myself and just stay really, really fresh. So sometimes that looks like making sure I take adequate time off and ride my motorcycle. That definitely means in the mornings I've got to have time with God where I'm reading stuff. Like today I was just reading 1 Samuel. Having the right friends in my life. What's the right books that I'm reading? All these things just help me stay fresh and follow my God, and maybe in the end help someone look at me and go, you know, your life is going pretty well. What's the secret of what's working for you? And that secret's Jesus. It's not those disciplines, it's Jesus. But if I'm not figuring out how to stay fresh with him, then no one's going to want my life.
You and your wife, you and your kids, you guys do stuff together that help you stay sharp, help you stay having fun. What are some of the stuff you guys did this past year?
Camping. We've gotten into camping a lot. In fact, I've got this, you're on our camping chairs right now.
Yeah, I noticed. This one says, "Hey, cute girl."
Hey, cute girl.
That one was for me, wasn't it?
No,
that's all for me?
That's my wife's chair.
Oh, okay.
That's my wife's girl, because she's my cute girl. So, hey, cute girl. So that's her. This chair, I've had, I bet you I've sat on this chair around a campfire 300 times. Wow. Camping is a big thing for me. Yeah. You just get to talk and get to hang out and get to have a beer, and it's good stuff. And you know, and so guess what? We're out of beer, and
You
so
beat me.
we're out of talking. Sorry, you had the greatest questions for me. I didn't have too many good for you. You don't have to pound the beer, by the way. In fact, you're a staff member, you just drank a beer that fast? What is your problem?
I need to pray more. I'm from the west side. We'll go to the west side.
All right, hey, I think that's the end of the first episode. Matt, great being with you. Sorry I didn't have more questions for you, but it was great talking to you.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
So that's the first episode of Brian Brings a Beer. And so great to have you with us. Here's what you can do. Here's what you can do. One, you could say, hey, I want to tune this every week. I'm going to have different people every single week. And I'm just sort of getting my legs right now. So we've got some pretty interesting people lined up for the future. We've got some people internal to Crossroads that we're doing here over the next few episodes, but they're going to be hopefully really stimulating. So just get ready to do that. And here's the big deal. Here's the big deal. Subscribe. That's right there. Subscribe. It really helps us to get these to you and helps us to spread our network, because we feel like more and more people need to understand how faith, Jesus, the Holy Spirit meshes with having a life that works and have some fun. So go ahead and subscribe right now. We'll see you on our next edition next week, or like in 4 minutes if you're binge watching episode 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 right now. So hey, it's great being with you. Have an amazing, amazing day.